Hi, everyone. We're just about ready to start the meeting. Just waiting for everyone to keep their phones on mute for now. So we're on Walpole Cable TV right now. We're also live with about 28 people working with us through Zoom. So this is kind of a unique situation for us here in Walpole. We've never dealt with anything like this, and I want to just kind of provide an update with everyone and let you know what we're doing, and what steps we're taking, and then also get into some of the matters with the Finance Committee. I appreciate all of you participating tonight. Going forward, we're like...
Since we are a Finance Committee meeting, can I get a roll call first?
Sure. Chairman Trudell would like a roll call with the Finance Committee as to who's present. Patrick's taking some of the minutes for me.
Okay. Mark Trudell, present. Andrew Flowers.
Present.
Can turn your mic on and respond, please. Andrew?
Present. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Okay. Josette Burr? No. Megan Ahigian?
Present.
Allison Hamilton?
Present.
Oh, present, okay. Susan Lawson? No. Shauna Hearn?
Present.
Brian Bain?
Present.
Doug Shea?
Present.
Mark Sullivan?
Present.
Lisa Vanderlyn? Oh, Lisa?
She's present in the roster.
Lisa signed in.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa was signed in.
Present.
Oh, thank you.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay. Dennis Crowley?
Yes, sir. Present.
Jeff Fisher?
Fisher. Present.
Okay. Kathleen Gerlich?
Present.
And Lucy Romanowitz.
Present.
So Josette and Susan are not present. Okay, thank you, Jim.
Okay. So just for everyone at home, we are live on Walpole Cable TV also. So this is being broadcast out on local cable TV and through YouTube. Here with me in the room is Finance Director Marilyn Thompson, DPW Director Rick Matson, Town Accountant Jody Cuneo, Assistant Town Administrator Patrick Shield, Chairman of the Board of the Select Board Jim O'Neill. And just to clarify for everyone else at home who might be watching this kind of historic event, we have Mark Galvin, a member of the Select Board at home. We have a couple of members of the school committee on with us. Nancy Galvin, I see you. Beth, I see you over here. Who else am I missing?
Bill Buckley.
Bill Buckley, how are you? And am I missing anyone else? For the sewer and water, we have Glenn Maffey, and I did invite Bill Abbott, but I'm not sure if he's able to attend. I know Town Moderator Dan Bruce is also on the line also. I'm asking all of you to participate in this meeting to more or less get the word out, let everyone know what's going on in town and how we're handling this emergency. So before I get started and get into kind of a budget update for all of you, I'd like to turn it over to Mark for a couple of comments and then to Dan for a few comments. So Mark?
Okay. Yes, so yesterday there was a meeting with all department heads plus Andrew and myself with the town administrator, basically laying out the game plan going forward. Sorry. Speaker back on.
Mark, you're not talking into the mic.
Yeah. Okay. Is that better? Okay.
Mark, can you hear me? It's Josette.
Hi, Josette. Okay, Josette's here. Thank-
Mark and Susan Lawson, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. Thank you. All right, so
Okay.
we're all here. Okay. All righty, so there was a meeting yesterday by similar method where Jim ran through what's going forward. At this point, looks like we're going to be suspending FinCom activities after tonight, but we'll get into more details later. But where we are being broadcast and doing everything remotely, we have to basically do any votes tonight by a roll call. And later, I'm thinking that we might vote all the articles, recommendation at town meeting, not knowing exactly when we will be going to town meeting. And with that, I'll go back to Jim.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Dan, do you have any comments? Okay, I thought,
Some of you may have heard, and you just heard Mark allude to this. I actually put this under a lot of consideration, talked to the town officials yesterday during our call, town council and whatnot, and taking the CDC guidance into consideration, and after much thought, I've decided that rather than wait and put things at limbo, to go ahead and postpone town meeting at this time. As you know, CDC guidance is no meetings of more than 50 people in person for the next 2 months. We're right at the edge of that, 7 weeks out. There's also been, while not approved yet, there is legislation filed by Governor Baker today that allows town meetings to be postponed later than June 30th. It's reduced the requirement for a quorum. It's also, vested the authority for moderators to do so in a public health emergency, which we already had in our rules. So, I was acting under that. And also, one of my other concerns is how we go on a budget pattern going forward. And there's language in there, too, that the towns could operate on a 1/12 spending plan, which I'm sure Jim will go into more detail. So with that, I made that decision so we don't have to be wary of it. We can just deal with the matters at hand. And, like everybody else in this unprecedented time, we'll come out of this and figure out how we pick things up on the backside of this, health outbreak. So I'll leave it there, Jim. I'll be on the call for a while if anybody has any questions, but we'll probably not stay for the whole meeting.
okay, thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Just a couple things I wanted to get into as far as, we turn that down a little bit. Our budget in FY20, the current budget we're in, and provide all of you with an update. At the end of last week, I implemented a freeze for department heads across the board. I froze all expense budgets with the exception of the following items: emergency-related purchases, coronavirus-related purchases, gas, diesel, trash pickup, contractual obligations, utility costs, including the telephones. We also implemented a town-wide freeze on hiring for any position, period, until we can kind of get through this and catch our breath. I am a bit concerned as far as revenues and potential 9C cuts. I've been advised by the finance department that we currently have 4 more payments of $800,000 per payment due to us for the last 4 months of the year. So those come in, so that's about $3.2 million that we're keeping a close eye on, and then we're also keeping a close eye on permit fees that we collect, mostly through the building department. Obviously, those revenues we expect to drop off. The one other item I've asked our state delegation to consider today is potentially relaxation of some of the rules regarding public safety personnel. I've asked them to consider allowing cities and towns to reach into the police and fire academy for personnel who've already started the process to go through to become a police officer or firefighter, and to potentially allow us to bring back some of our recently retired public safety personnel. This could potentially help us. We only have a few that are, recently retired within the last year or so, but I'm trying to think outside of the box here as far as options that might be at our hand. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. So any questions on FY20 just initially, let me know. Anyone? Okay. And we'll do some questions at the end also. So FY21. So at this time, Mark kind of got into this and Dan kind of definitely got into it. I'd recommend the Finance Committee hold any and all recommendations on the budget at this time until we know what's going to happen at the state, federal, and local level. We really don't know. The budget we had was a really good budget in place. We had some additions to across the board for police and fire and school personnel, and I'm concerned that probably is not going to happen, at least for fiscal 21. We have to watch everything I think the stock market was down close to 3,000 just when I left the office tonight. It might be just below that. So we're tightening our belts on anything and everything here. So that's kind of where I stand. I hope the Finance Committee agrees with that. I think you all will, especially given the fact that Dan just informed all of you that he's going to ask me and Town Council to work together to take the necessary steps to delay town meeting at this point until we catch our breath on this one. Dan did touch upon a 112 spending plan. I am learning more and more about this every day. That's basically a statute that allows cities, and it's going to likely be expanded to towns, to allow them to operate on 1/12 of the previous year budget going forward month to month. So if it gets into July, we will be probably operating under that if we don't have a town meeting by then. And whenever we do have a town meeting, July, August, we'll clean up the books at that point. But with the emergency declaration that we declared yesterday, we were able to, overspend some funds here and there, and to call on state resources as necessary. So that's where I stand with the budget. As far as some other things, I wanted to just more or less do some public service announcements. The website, we've gone ahead and changed the website, the town website at this time. I never imagined I'd have so much content in less than a week that I had to break it up into close to 10 different subcategories. But we've gone forward and done that with the help of Mike Donovan and Patrick and Ashley up in the Community Development Department. We've gone forward and broken things down into some subcategories that if you go on tonight, you'll see them. Town-provided public service announcements, Board of Health information, food coordination efforts, school department-related information, volunteer information, business information, employee information, and video links. So we're trying to cover all the bases so you don't have to sift through everything. If you're interested in some of to volunteer, you can just click on that and we'll take you there. Our Council on Aging and our Rec Department personnel are working together across the board to coordinate volunteer efforts. And I'm also mindful that not everyone has access to social media and the internet and computers. So I've asked the Walpole Police Department to go forward and deploy the message boards out at various locations throughout town to keep citizens informed, let them know where to go to get some information. We're working with our partners at Walpole Housing Authority to ensure that everyone who lives there has information, even if it's just in the common areas. There's some ideas to put some information out in the notices that may go out in the mail, but it seems like by the time it gets out in the mail, it'll be a little bit outdated, the way things are changing. We're also working with the people from Walpole Media who've been more than accommodating to ensure that we get some information through our cable channels, which just a few minutes ago prior to this message, I worked on a public service announcement that'll be run on cable continuously, and we're also going to put some form of a scroll at the bottom so people can find information. At this point, I'm not going to have a reverse 911 call. A couple people have asked me about that because I want to wait until we absolutely need something like that. We're getting information out. Friends are sharing it with neighbors and family members. So that's what we're doing as far as providing information to the residents of Walpole. As far as some of our outreach efforts, that, as I said, is being coordinated through the Council on Aging, the Recreation, and the School Department. We're working to ensure that food pantry patrons, future and current, know where they need to go and are getting the food that they need. The superintendent and school business manager continue to work on delivery efforts for free and reduced lunch information for kids who qualify under the program. That's going to be offered through the school department. We expect those efforts to probably take place in the high school parking lot and distribute from there. Our van drivers have stepped up to the plate, so have the cafeteria workers, and working on getting together some food for the kids who take advantage of that program. Right now, all public facilities in Walpole are closed to the public. Staff is still coming in. My next step that I'm considering, I haven't done it yet, is operating a skeleton crew in the various buildings and or essential employees only. We haven't taken those steps just because we're we're in kind of a holding pattern right now. I want to keep staff working as long as possible to get the essential services out there. As far as the essential services, police and fire continue to operate on a skeleton as needed, as scheduled. That will change as we progress through everything. Water and sewer operations continue. The water and sewer department is stocked up with chemicals. The DPW director, water superintendent took those steps last week to make sure that we have what we need to get through the next weeks or months, and we'll continue to order it as they become available. The water tank levels have been raised, the reserves are up, and we're keeping them up as far as temporarily, as long as we need them. Trash collection, Russell Disposal, who is our trash collector, has advised that they continue to collect as scheduled. We continue to monitor that. We checked with them yesterday. Every other day we're going to check in with them and make sure trash is going to be collected on time. Payroll, the finance director and the assistant treasurer tax collector have begun to set up a system in place so we can operate on a bare bone minimum as far as staffing and continue to keep people paid and running as long as possible, as long as this is needed. Building inspections, Building Inspector Mike Yanovich has advised that he and Community Development Director Ashley Clark have been working all day on business outreach. We're obviously concerned about this, all of the businesses in town, and they've been delivering notices letting them know which bars and restaurants, the decision, the impact there by the governor. They've also started to transition to emergency and exterior inspections, which is to be expected, and they're going to continue to help Melissa and the Board of Health enforce some of the rules and regulations that were put into place effective tomorrow by the governor. Ashley has gone ahead and developed a website for businesses that they can go and seek relief, and we're going to continue to put as much information out there for the small business loans and other work that's going on at the state and federal level. The building department is, constantly going to help and keep up however needed as far as public safety enforcement. Bridget or Mike, do you have anything really for school-related items, or Bill Buckley? I know we recently today sent out a notice to all teachers, and we're working on some plans where we can do some at-home learning for some of the students. It's my understanding that the teachers are going to be reaching out to their students probably later on this week once a plan is in place to keep the students' minds active and keep them going because for the next 3 weeks it's going to be a unique situation. School committee people, or Mike, did I miss anything?
Tim, it's Mike Krisha. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So families received a communication today from Superintendent Goff, kind of outlining the beginnings of online learning, the work taking place with our administrative teams to kind of put the information together to provide to families to give them some direction. We will be partnering. The specific direction will be provided by the teachers and the support staff, and that's what we worked on today with our administrative teams. We also are going to work with the teachers going forward over this week and hoping to roll out online learning and make it available by Friday, but if not Friday, by Monday next week. That should be up and running. The staff received an email today kind of detailing some of the things that you mentioned about payroll, that the continuity of payroll is critical for us, and we are assuring many of our staff, can't think of any exceptions at this point, that would not be compensated based on their regular pay that they normally receive. And the school buildings, we're beginning the disinfecting of the buildings. That'll start on Wednesday, should be complete by Friday, and we'll be all set as far as that goes for staff and students to return when we are back at school.
All right. Thank you, Mike, for that update. Just a few other items to touch upon. Town clerk, Liz is still making election papers and birth certificates, marriage certificates available. She actually met a couple out in the parking lot today to make sure that they get their marriage certificate, and she's going to work with them to make sure all the paperwork is processed. We're just not allowing people in the building from the outside, but we'll work with them however we can, as long as we can. So public service announcements, there's been some great people out in the community that have helped me get out information via Facebook. We've been putting it on our website. We'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to do community outreach, as I previously mentioned. And that is just a couple of other items. Boards and committees, for the most part, we've canceled them across the board. We're working with all the people who have items before the land use boards, planning, zoning, and conservation, to get basically a 90-day extension on any and all current applications before those boards. For the most part, they've been accommodating. There's been a few exceptions, but we're working with them. Non-essential meetings, they're going to be scaled back and canceled unless absolutely necessary. We are going to continue to have the Board of Health meet, and probably the Select Board, even if it's just for a brief meeting in a similar fashion, just as tonight. Board of Health is scheduled to meet tomorrow night. We're going to use the Zoom app and do it over that form, and make sure that they're active, because in this type of a crisis, the Board of Health has a lot of authority, and I want to make sure that they're kept up to speed on a regular basis. So before we get into comments and feedbacks, I just want to say I'm proud of everyone here in Walpole. The Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, School Committee, Board of Health has been really accommodating throughout the last week or two. And it's an evolving situation. Town employees have really stepped up to the plate, and everyone understands that this is a crisis, and all hands are on deck. No one's questioning work assignments. They're all just doing what they can to help others in the community. And everyone's working hard to ensure that we're ready for the tidal wave that's likely coming. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions or comments you may have. Just to avoid any confusion, I'll call on you if you speak up, just so you're not speaking over each other. I'll hand it up first over to Select Board Chair Jim O'Neill.
So just a brief comment, Jim. Once again, to thank you for your leadership. It's been exemplary as we've worked our way through this, and this is not easy stuff. It's the first time we've dealt with anything like this, and you've been an amazing leader and done a great job. The same thing is true with the department heads. What's been happening over the last several days as you've thought through these plans, gotten these plans in place, has been really tremendous and great work by everyone. You were telling me today about all the volunteers that you're getting, that are people jumping in to help out any way they can. And it's not surprising. Walpole's a great town and has great people in it, and so we're seeing that in action. But nonetheless, it's heartening to see. Our number one priorities, of course, have to be the health and safety of the residents and the health and safety of the people that work for our town. So all of these actions that you're taking are geared toward that and will continue to be geared toward that. And again, I think you did a great job. You got a great command of the facts. Your team's doing a wonderful job. I just want to thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
So with that, I'll open it up, and does anybody have anything to say? And just remember to unmute if you do, so. No?
Denny's on.
Denny, is he saying something? I can't hear him.
We're ready to help out when you need it.
Denny, I just caught the end of it. We're ready to help out when you need it.
Ready to help out when you need it.
Okay.
I said, good job. I like what you've done, the plan. You're well organized, well thought out, and let us know what you need from us to help out.
Thanks. I appreciate the kind words.
Don't see anybody else. Oh, Ally's.
Hi, it's Ally.
Hi, Ally.
Hi, I just thank you, Jim. I'm very eager for all of us, everyone I want to have is, question, you mentioned the police, you're hoping to pull up from the academy, is that for the fire department as well? I'm concerned if we have our police service and they start becoming ill in quarantine, that we have enough to pull from.
I didn't catch the end of that.
She was wondering if the reason for calling him up is because on-duty people might be getting out sick.
Sure. So, Ally, I'm sorry. I'm listening through Mark's phone, so we don't have feedback here. Right now, there are 0 confirmed cases in Walpole, which is kind of a surprise to me, but that's where it stands right now. We have had a couple scares over the weekend, and on Saturday night in particular, which led to me closing the police and fire station to the public. But fortunately, at this time, the areas were decontaminated, and as far as we know, the person isn't positive. So we're taking the necessary steps to keep our personnel safe. The police chief has issued multiple orders today. They're going through in-service training as to how to handle this as far as they know, and fire's doing the same thing. Fortunately, after an incident in the fire, every incident, the ambulance is decontaminated and cleaned, so that's standard protocol for them. And I believe they're going to make that standard protocol across the board for police, even for our police officers themselves. Just wipe the vehicle down when you're done with it. So, do we have any issues right now? No. I'm just preparing for if and when it comes. And we've met with Labor Council to ensure that we can kind of move around personnel as necessary and to get the job done. The police and fire union have given us no pushback, along with DPW. They understand it's an emergency, and if I need to move some shifts around or staffing levels around, we have the right to do that under an emergency action. Does that answer your question, Ally?
It does. I mean, I'm just hopeful, like you said, we have retired police that maybe can call us or Walpole Academy. I'm hopeful that on the fire department side, we have that same situation. And we don't know where this is going. And,
Yeah.
Some counties in California, I have a relative out there, were already called to most restrictive stay at home.
Okay, I agree with you, and that's why I asked the state legislature to continue to consider lifting some of the restrictions on some of the retirees. Would it help us? I haven't even had I could think of 4 or 5 people on the public safety side who have retired in the last year or two that probably would be willing to step up and help out, and they're still local, so we'll see where we go with that. Thank you.
One more question, I don't want to hog it up, I'm sure there's a line. Board of Health meeting, are we all being invited to call into or listen to that?
We'll probably set up something similar to what we have here today, and I'm going to make sure that it's live on cable TV and go from there. So we'll broadcast that tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks for letting me listen in over you. Okay, anyone else?
I've got 2 questions.
Andrew?
Jim, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So my first question is about the current fiscal year budget. If we need to access the stabilization fund for any reason, or for the next fiscal year's budget, for that matter, how does that impact town meeting scheduling? If town meeting's delayed, do we have any restrictions on that, accessing stabilization fund? Because you mentioned that the legislature is going to maybe pass some greater flexibility, some laws to allow us to access these tools. But I'm just wondering, as is, are we restricted from accessing the stabilization fund if we can't call town meeting?
I mean, I'm looking to Jody and Marilyn. We're all kind of making eye contact here. What do you?
I can't imagine us going through the money we have, whereas we're still billing
Yeah.
and expecting payments to come in. So on our end, I think the cash flow should be pretty consistent to what we're used to.
So what Marilyn's advising, Andrew, is that on her end right now in the immediate future, we're still billing, we're still ongoing, we're not overspending budgets at this time. That could change. That declaration that we took yesterday allowed us to go into the negative in budgets, so obviously we have to account for that at some point if and when we do go into the negative. So I'm not concerned in the immediate future about stabilization. There may be a need to add an item on the warrant whenever we have the town meeting for stabilization, but right now I'm not. That's not on my immediate list, but it's kind of in the back of my head.
Great. And then my second question is about the fiscal year 2021, next year's fiscal budget. If we are, for whatever reason, delayed having town meeting, you mentioned the 1/12 rule, and I'm not familiar with all the details of it, but today I was speaking with the chair of the Board of Selectmen in Easton, and she told me that, as she understood it, or was told, that the 1/12 rule, where you could spend 1/12 of your budget if you hadn't passed a new fiscal year budget, that only applied to the school side, and that it didn't apply to the municipal side. And again, I know a lot of this will probably change if the legislature, changes the laws, introduces more flexibility. But I'm just wondering if that's the case, that are we restricted on the municipal side?
As far as 112 budget, I believe it's only restricted to cities, and so they would have to change that to allow for towns to do it. That's what council, and when we briefly spoke about it over the weekend, that's what she advised. So there's much more to come on that one. They were filing legislation, Copeland and Page, to make certain changes to that to allow for this. So it's going to be changed in the next upcoming days or weeks. As you know, there's a few town meetings that are supposed to take place within the next 2 weeks or so. So they're going to have to address it there for towns.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Just touch base on the payments.
Oh, Marilyn's asking me to touch base on the payments. So as far as payments going forward, if people, we've already had some people coming in, and the Dropbox has been extremely busy today, which I'm kind of surprised about. Residents can make payments in the Dropbox, but we do not accept cash payments. We do accept money orders, certified checks, personal checks, but we don't accept cash through that means. So if residents have questions, we are looking into making sure that fees are waived and however we can, and we're not enforcing liens at this time whenever possible. So we understand that this is going to be a tough time for probably everyone, and we want to work with them however possible. Anything else? So going forward, I'll communicate with you guys, everyone on this chat and in this meeting here tonight, and I'll keep the community updates going. We'll keep everything going for as long as possible, and then when we have to scale back, we'll keep going with as many community updates as possible. I appreciate everyone sitting in here tonight. Thank you. I'm thankful for Walpole Media to get this out on TV live so residents can see that we're continuing to operate the town of Walpole and just scaled back a little bit. And we're all focused on this coronavirus. We've done nothing but focus on this coronavirus, it seems like, for the last week, 2 weeks. And I never thought we'd be having a meeting such as this here tonight, but we are, and it's just part of our new reality, and we'll continue to work through it. So, if that's it, I appreciate it. Mark, do you have anything to kind of wrap up the meeting?
Yeah, basically, FinCom is suspending its calendar until the beginning of April. If town meeting does get moved, then we don't have to vote recommendation at town meeting on anything until we know when the new town meeting date will be set. So basically, yeah, we're free until the beginning of April, and Jim's going to be updating us weekly as to where we think we're going, and we'll settle in after April 1st.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Good.
Hey, Mark, it's Dan Bruce.
Yes, Dan.
Just wanted to refresh. You were really kind of garbled, but the one thing I did make out about what you said, because I think your mic wasn't transmitting very well.
Okay.
You said if town meeting is delayed. Town meeting is delayed.
Well,
Okay?
no, what I said was if
Yeah.
my comment was if town meeting is not delayed. Yeah.
Again, maybe I didn't hear you, okay?
Yeah.
Town meeting's delayed. I'm going to work with Jim
Yeah.
and town council and other town officials to kind of determine when best to start. But I think for us to try to figure out exactly when that's going to be at this point in time, but I just want to let this committee and the other folks that are participating know that that's the case right now, so we can get word out and focus on, the task at hand rather than worrying about when the town meeting's going to be.
Right.
There are a lot more urgent matters at hand right now.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Everyone else, good? Thank you. Good night.
Hopefully very brief, but we'll see.
Thank you.